Hey Envoys, Sci-Fi Fan here with a Soulframe Lore video. Today we're taking a deep dive into the Fae, their origins, their disappearance, and the impact they've left on the world of Alca as of Preludes 10. We'll also explore in the second half of the video their real-world inspirations and how ancient myths might hint at what Digital Extremes has planned for us next. As always, this is your disclaimer that Soulframe is still in early alpha, and this lore could potentially be changed prior to full release. With that out of the way, let's get into it. The Fae are one of the biggest mysteries in Soulframe at the moment, as very little is known about them directly, but the fragments that we do have paint a picture of a people unlike any other. They were powerful magic users, traveling across Alca for maybe thousands of years, before vanishing completely. But here's the big question: why did they disappear, and where did they go to? One of our earliest and most detailed clues about the Fae comes from Oro's Well, the oldest well in all of Midrith. The lore tied to it describes the people who planted the world trees as chosen by Alca herself. Here's how the entry tells the story. Quote, "Before the time of men there lived the Fae. Alca's favored children she granted them a gift, a taste of mother's magics. On the full tapper's moon she bid the first of the Fae gather in the forest's clearing. Faces raised in a ring of clasped hands did they serenade bright Iridus with the voices of owls and crickets. His face aglow with pride, Iridus cast a moonbeam so round and bright, it bore a hole right through the Fae ring, carving deep and low to Alca's center. From this well a spring of magic flowed, it bathed the Fae in power. For an era of prosperity, the Fae drew wisdom and wishes from Alca's well. For an era of fervency, they sipped it dry. 'Twas not till Oro, son of Iridus, came upon it, dripping with the salt of the eastern seas, did the well fill at last with water. Still, Oro's well bears the sweetest drink, imbued as it is with traces of mother's magics forevermore." Now, if we take this entry at face value, then Midrith may have been the Fae's birthplace, and Oro's well was the foundation of their magical power. It gave them prosperity, wisdom, and influence, but at a cost, because as we'll find out in a little bit, that strength soon began to decline. This decline has been referenced in-game as the Felling, and it's one of the most important turning points in Fae history, but what caused it still remains unclear. Some lore points toward human involvement. A record from Fort Kernhold describes a witch general named Agrona and her battalion of soldiers trained in Tetherin magics, which we know is the magic tied to the Fae chief of Soulless Warriors, and one of the packs that the Envoy can access in the game. The power of Agrona's battalion made the early kingdom of Midrith nearly invincible against rival islands, until, as the entry says, the Fae drew their war staffs. Another record from the Tower of Othavess mentions that after the Felling, the tower was the last place of Midrith where Fae writings could be freely read. Everywhere else it seems that their texts were destroyed or forgotten. So does this mean humans were responsible for the Felling? Not necessarily, but we do know that in the years after, humans treated anything tied to the Fae with suspicion, hatred, and fear. A good example comes from the 4th year of King Jotar II's reign. The bailiff of Carlisle, Matthias, recorded a dispute between two farmers of public proportion. Quote, "The plaintiff home of Carlisle, farmer of corn, hath squandered his king's tax by way of bribe to the lonesome town crier, Imbert of Carlisle. Shortly after noon meat, for the price of 3 1/2 dracs, home bid Imbert to cry ad nauseum the following: Let it be known, Bayrich of Carlisle is a fold-hearted Feykin. Come ye to his crop, stomp out his sprouts." The labors of the day were thus abandoned by all to wreak havoc over the king's sweet corn. After much revolt and little help from onlooking guardsmen, the good bailiff hath queried both home and Bayrich. The defendant dismissed all claims of late burning lanterns, unseasonably wraith corn stalks, and the bewitching of the plaintiff's hunting mutt Fleasworth as a result of superior farming. 'Tis the opinion of the good and just bailiff Matthias of Carlisle that home of Carlisle, Bayrich of Carlisle, and the wretched crier Imbert be tried in the royal court and put to death for good reason. While the general definition of Feykin remains a bit murky, it seems that in this context it describes humans who carry Fey magic in their bloodline. As of right now, we only know of 2 Feykin who have been confirmed in Soulframe. Us, the Envoy, and our grandfather, who we've yet to see in-game, and who has only been talked about by the developers in dev streams and featured in 1 or 2 trailers. Feykin are set apart from normal humans by their blue blood and the blue markings on their arms, which allow them to use magic. It appears that even the mere accusation of being one, as was in the case in Carlisle, is a death sentence. or at least it was before the Ode invasion. This connection is made crystal clear in one of the Soulframe's early trailers, where the Envoy's grandfather shares a grim oral history of what it means to be Feykin. Quote, "Oh, they'd round us up, or drown us down, at least we come witches. And they were right. Our blue blood is as old as Alcan stone, as omen beast, as voicing trees. Each of these with magics no dullard human ever sees. The spell song made us forget all others, but men'll learn the river's verses, for only the souls now remember." At this point, it's a good guess that being Feykin is what allows us to enter the Nightfold, where we're able to interact with the ancestors we've met so far. Whether or not those ancestors were themselves Feykin remains to be seen, although the fact that they're referred to as our ancestors points to at least some relation to the Envoy. So even though the Fae themselves are gone, their bloodline survives through the Feykin. And here's the really interesting part. If the Fae were Alca's chosen children, and their magic now runs through us, then that makes the Envoy more than just another hero. It means that we're a direct continuation of the Fae's legacy. Lord Synod of the Ode at least seems very interested in this, as the TennoCon 2025 Preludes 11 gameplay shows a flashback of him interrogating the Envoy about the whereabouts of the Empress of the Fae, although why he thinks we know where she is, or what he wants to do with her, is anybody's guess. The only other mention of the Fae Empress in the game that we have right now is just a short note about a rare meeting between the Fae and Midrathian Queen Finguala, where the walls of the castle Mirafer were blessed, allowing it to stand for generations. Although it's unclear whether or not the Fae Empress mentioned in this particular story is the same one that Lord Synod is searching for. At the end of the day, the big questions about the Fae are still unanswered. What truly caused the felling? Were humans to blame, or was it something else? Maybe even the Fae themselves overreaching or fighting amongst each other. And if the Fae can carry the last traces of Fae magic, what does that mean for the future of Alca and the battles we're about to face? While we wait for these answers to be worked out in the game, we can turn to the myths and legends of Fae in real life for some insight. Stories of Fae or fairies have appeared in folklore for thousands of years. Over time, mythologists and storytellers have described them in many different ways, as the unworthy dead, the children of Eve, demons, an independent species, an older race of humans, or even fallen angels. Whether in religious text or modern pop culture, fairies have become nearly universal. They often show up as shapeshifters and beings who can influence the natural world, and in some cases they even have more devious motives, entrapping wandering knights or children in fairy circles or other realms. Some historians believe the medieval idea of fairies was influenced by the Peris of Persian mythology. Peris were angelic beings mentioned in pre-Islamic Persia as early as the Achaemenid Empire, which began in 550 BC and stretched from the Balkans and Egypt to the Indus Valley in South Asia. Later Persian works describe them as beautiful radiant spirits with wings, often tied to nature. These stories may have spread westward through migration and trade, eventually shaping early European ideas of Fae. In Irish mythology, stories of Fae originated with the legends of the Tuatha Dé Danann, or Tuatha Dé, meaning tribe of the gods. The gifted people dwelled in the otherworld, a parallel realm to our own where there was everlasting youth, beauty, health, abundance, and joy, and where time moved differently. The otherworld is depicted not only as the dwelling places of the gods, but also as well as the dwelling place of certain heroes and their ancestors. For those fantasy novel readers out there, modern authors such as J.R.R. Tolkien with The Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis with Narnia, and Jim Butcher with the Dresden Files have all drawn inspiration from various aspects of this Celtic otherworld, so it makes sense that Digital Extremes may also be drawing on this mythology as inspiration for the Nightfold and Soulframe. Now, different sources say the Tuatha Dé Danann came from either the islands in the far north or descended from the sky itself. After winning battles against otherworldly beings known as Fomorians who brought blight and drought to the world, the Tuatha Dé Danann were then defeated and displaced by the ancestors of today's Irish people. After their defeat, they retreated into the earth, dwelling in what became known as fairy mounds. From there, they lived on in legend as the fairies of Irish folklore. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was digging through this folklore on Wikipedia, I had to raise my eyebrows a bit. The parallels to Soulframe's Fae and the Ode feel too close to ignore. Stick with me here because this is where I'm going to dive into pure speculation. At the start of Soulframe, the Ode Inquisitor has a very interesting conversation with the Envoy, which we'll listen to now.
Remember this. We are a family.
according to the TennoCon Preludes 11 gameplay that we've seen, Lord Synod later repeats the same family line when interrogating us about the Fey Empress. Could that then mean that the Fey, and by extension the Feykin and us, share a common ancestry with the Ode? Maybe the Fey once defeated the Ode in Alca's ancient past in a sort of War of Heaven scenario, forcing them to flee into space, only for humans to later displace the Fey or conquer them, much like the story of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And if that's the case, would that explain the massive fallen towers and ruins we see as scattered across Midrith? Because so far I haven't seen any other explanation in-game for what could have caused such destruction, as the humans currently residing on the island don't appear to have technology or magic at their disposal. The Fey may be gone from Alca, but their legacy runs deep, in the blood of the Feykin, in the ruins and wells they left behind, and in the fear and fascination that they inspire in humans and Ode alike. Whether they fell by their own hubris, by human hands, or through some ancient war with the Ode, their story clearly isn't finished. And with the Envoy standing as their last living continuation, every step we take in Soulframe might just be uncovering the next chapter of that legacy. If Digital Extremes really is drawing on Celtic myths like the Tuatha Dé Danann, then we could be looking at a cycle of defeat, retreat, and eventual return. Which begs the question, are the Fey truly gone, or are they simply waiting, just out of reach, for the right moment to rise again? Well, that's all I have for you today, Envoys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check back here in the future for more Soulframe Lore content.